Thanks for tuning in to Ag PhD. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. It's been an exciting fall and early winter because we're getting lots of questions about some of the new things that are coming out. One of them is a new herbicide called Resicore that we'll talk about today.
We also want to discuss the Roundup Ready Plus program. This is an extensive program that varies depending on the region of the country, but it involves a lot of different herbicides, and it's really important if you're trying to save money on your farm this year to take advantage of some of these rebate programs, including Roundup Ready Plus.
Well, you may need Roundup Ready Plus to try and stop our weed of the week. We'll show you which products could work the best taking it out on your farm. But first, here's our Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty Herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty Herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
Weeds have one main purpose in life, and no, it's not to annoy you or me. The purpose of a weed is to reproduce. So today, during our Farm Basics time, we're going to talk a little about how do weeds reproduce.
Well, there are several different ways that plants can reproduce. Let's go with the obvious, producing seed. So for an annual weed, many times this is the case. They want to grow, put on a seed head, and spread their seed, and that's it. So let's just say that the weed has a tough year and maybe it can't emerge from the ground and it's late and it gets up and it's only a few inches tall. Well, it doesn't have to necessarily be 5 feet tall in order for it to reproduce. So many times, even those weeds that come up later in the season, for whatever reason, they could still be small, but they'll get at least one viable seed on it so they can reproduce and try again next year.
All right, with annual weeds, they pretty much only reproduce by seeds. But then we have other weeds like biennials and especially perennials. The perennials are kind of where we want to focus here because they have a number of different ways they can spread through a field and effectively reproduce. And rhizomes, that's the thing that I guess I wanted to talk about a little bit because one of my least favorite weeds is Canada thistle. When Darren and I were growing up on the farm, we had to fight Canada thistle all the time. And so we'd go out there with hoes. And so you'd hoe out that Canada thistle plant and another one would pop up over here and another one would pop up over there. Well, what was happening is below the ground, there were these rhizomes that would go and then put up new plants. So you can kill one of the plants, one of the heads there, and you'd think, oh, I've got this weed. No, you don't, because of this great big extensive rhizome system below ground. That's one of the ways that Canada thistle can spread.
Back to talking about seed, that's one of those things about plants that produce seed. Well, a lot of those seeds will germinate next year, but some of the seeds may stick around in the soil for several years. And they may be buried in the soil and they can hold intact and not decay or rot for quite a few years. So just because you stopped a weed this year, if it did go to seed, doesn't mean you aren't going to face that weed coming down the road.
All right, there's also stolons and tubers that I guess I wanted to address real quickly. Stolons are basically rhizomes, but they're running above ground. And tubers, kind of think of carrots, for example. So it's just a little bit different way for a plant to reproduce, and you're going to have something below the ground instead of seeds above the ground.
Well, there are a lot of different ways that weeds can reproduce. There are a lot of different ways that plants in general can reproduce. It's important to understand the weed that you're trying to control and how it goes to seed. That way you understand, hey, timing is so important because I have to stop it before it goes through that reproductive phase.
Well, it is important to identify how the plant can reproduce because you don't want weeds to reproduce at all. We'll talk about our weed of the week and how that reproduces coming up later in the show.
We raise corn, beans, and then about 7,500 head of hogs a year. About 800 acres of beans this year. All 800 are Liberty Link this year. Our biggest weed pressure is definitely the water hemp. That's why we switched to Liberty Link. We were Roundup Ready, and we had some resistance. I got sprayed 3 times one year that didn't even come close to killing them. So the next year we switched to Liberty Link thinking we'd switch back and forth every year, and Liberty Link performed so well we never switched back. We have a test plot that had Roundup and Liberty Link right next to each other, and the Liberty Link out-yielded it the past 5 years. It's very important to have good weed control. For one, it just looks better to look at a nice clean field, but yield-wise, it's also very important.
The Liberty Link system, a simply better solution, now backed by the Liberty Weed Control Guarantee, because Liberty is simply better weed control by Bayer.
A farmer's attention to detail is what makes the difference. You take the time for service management because you know how vital it is to your operation. You service your field like everything else because soil sampling makes all the difference and gets the results you want. Download the app Soil Test Pro and start grid sampling today. Keep your farm growing strong. The more you test, the more you know.
I would recommend Morton for many reasons, but one is that they have a long history of standing behind their buildings.
Our sales experience with Morton was a nice experience. You know, they told us what it was going to cost, what it was going to be, you know, how it was going to run, and it worked out really well for us.
Morton has built me one heck of a nice building, and it should stand for a very, very long time. I was very happy with the workmanship.
Check us out online at mortonbuildings.com.
At Titan Machinery, our shops are busy with a brand new program from Case IH, Certified Pre-Owned. We rigorously inspect each certified machine, which is covered by a 12-month powertrain protection plan. I use this CPO seal to give you peace of mind when buying a used Case IH tractor or combine. CPO units also qualify for special financing and rewards. We're adding more CPO equipment every day, but they'll have to meet my standards first. Certified, inspected, and protected from Case IH and Titan Machinery.
Whenever you hear about a new herbicide, in today's agriculture, you may be thinking, wait a second, I didn't think there were new things coming. Maybe it's a combination of some of the things that are already on the market, and if so, why does that combination work better than the other combinations that are out there? Well, I want to talk a little about a new product called Resicore that is a combination of several different products, but it is pretty exciting in the weeds that it controls and how well it works.
Well, yeah, it certainly is exciting, but I think price has a lot to do with this. So if you take a look at what the components are of this Resicore, let's step back for just a second. Resicore is from Dow, and in the past Dow has had a product called Sure Start that's the same thing as Monsanto's Triple Flex. Well, what Sure Start had in it was Surpass and Hornet. And Hornet was just a combination of Stinger and Python. So Surpass, Stinger, and Python. Well, for us in the Midwest, we said, hey, you know what? We've got a lot of water hemp. We have common ragweed. We have a lot of different weeds that some of these ALS herbicides, like the Python that's in Sure Start, they're just not working the best on this anymore. Wouldn't it be nice if instead of having that ALS component, we could have an HPPD component similar to like Callisto, for example? Well, that's exactly what Dow did with Resicore. They took out the Python, inserted the mesotrione, which would be the same thing as Callisto. So you've now got a product that's Surpass, Callisto, and Stinger, and the Stinger is really good on Canada thistle.
Well, it's a nice product to use pre-emerge, and I think the big thing is just paying attention to what is in some of the combination products that you may be using on your farm so you can adjust what your plan is post-emerge to make sure you aren't doubling up on things. For example, in Resicore, you've got a full rate of Callisto there. So should I use more Callisto or Laudis, Armazon, Impact in crop? Should I use another HPPD? Well, for our farm, the answer is absolutely not. There's no way we want to do that. We've already used that chemistry out there. Let's get a different mode of action out there that's effective on the weeds that we've got. So we've got some water hemp on our farm, or pigweed. It'd be very similar to palm or pigweed that we see a little further south and in other areas of the country. So we've already taken a shot at that pigweed with a group 15. We've already taken a shot at it with something like the HPPD component here. So why don't we try something different? So for our farm, we may choose to use Status, for example, or may use some atrazine with that Status. Now we've got a couple different modes of action post-emerge that would be different than what we did pre.
One of the great things that's happened on the farm here over the last few years is that many of the products we've liked to use have gone off patent. So Callisto now, that active ingredient mesotrione, that's off patent. So you're going to see a lot of different companies selling that active ingredient out there, and it also means the price is coming way down. Well, if I say, okay, I like Surpass, I like Stinger, and I also like Callisto, I want to buy each of those three individually, you're going to pay way more money than you would buying Dow's Resicore. So that's the reason I'm excited about this thing. They got the price really reasonable. And if you take a look at what is in there, the Surpass is going to be excellent on grass normally, but there is a reduced rate. So just kind of keep in mind that, yep, I'm going to get grass control, but is it going to be as good as going a full rate of Surpass by itself? No way. So if you want to throw some extra Surpass in with your Resicore, or another way to handle this, some people are throwing a half rate of Surpass down, following with Resicore post-emerge, that's a good way to go to.
Well, that's the big thing, Brandon. Here's where I wanted to go with it, is how do you use this product? Do you use it pre or do you use it early post? Now, I talk to farmers every day of the week on Ag PhD radio who are saying, you know, I'm just not going to do anything down before I plant the corn. I'm going to plant the corn, then when it gets up just a little bit, I'm going to come in with Resicore. What do you think of that? Well, you know what? You can probably kill most of your weeds, maybe all of your weeds, depending on what you got. But the problem is now you've allowed weeds to get up and compete against your crop. And what we've seen over the years, well, really over 30 or 40 years worth of university trial work, is that when we use that pre, we get more yield than if we wipe out the weeds post-emerge. So in this day and age, if you want to be profitable on the farm, you have to get the most yield. And if you could use the same product, spend the same dollars, just use it in a different way and get more yield, well, that's the right way to go. I believe it is using a pre-emerge herbicide. Whether it's putting straight Surpass pre, coming with Resicore early post, that would be fine. Just don't skip the pre. I think you're making a mistake.
Yep, or you can use Resicore pre, follow with something like Status post-emerge. You've got a lot of different options, and that's one of the great things. You know, when we look at soybeans, we don't have a lot of products that we can use pre and post. But in corn, we have many, including this Resicore.
Well, it certainly is a promising new product, but can it control our weed of the week? We'll show you what does stop this weed coming up later in the show.
Technology is constantly changing the way we farm. Hi-Pro innovative spray technologies are here to keep your farm at the forefront of agricultural innovation. With spray application equipment for any scenario, Hi-Pro is here to put you right on technology, right on target.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Attention farmers, are you able to sell your grain for a premium? Your local Agri-Dry dealer can show you how farmers are seeing a return on their investment with Agri-Dry products this year. Higher test weights, even distribution of forage material, and target moisture premiums are all benefits Agri-Dry customers are seeing on their grain sales tickets this year. Are you ready to start making more money on your stored grain? Visit agridryllc.com to find your local dealer today.
For lower costs, higher production, Mandico Agri leads with versatility unmatched. Twister is the vertical tillage unit for no-till as well as conventional tillage. Avoid costly downtime with Twister's ease of maintenance. Its unique Coulter suspension allows it to follow the contour of the field yet remain forgiving in rocks. Our hydraulically adjustable Coulter angles mean you never leave the cab, making residue management easier, more efficient. Spring or fall, the Mandico Twister is the new leader. Check with your local dealer or visit mandicoagri.com.
There are trillions of hardworking microbes right beneath your feet. Today, Monsanto BioAg is harnessing the power of microbes, creating microscopic farmhands that help plants access nutrients, enhance root and shoot growth, and handle stressful conditions throughout the season, protecting and maximizing your yield potential. We're turning 500 trillion microbes into 500 trillion new farmhands, ready for work. Nature, it's powerful technology.
When you think about it, productivity starts at planting. So it's time to rethink how productive your planter can be. We did with the new Case IH 2000 Series Early Riser Planter. We rethought your row unit so it's tougher, more accurate. We rethought your meter, took the most precise technology, factory installed it. We rethought every inch of the Case IH Early Riser Planter to make it the most productive planter around. And if you think about it, That's exactly what you want.
There are many different herbicide rebate programs out there. Today we're going to talk a little about Roundup Ready Plus, but I guess the main message here that we want to make sure you understand is talk to your retailer and make sure you take advantage of some of these programs if it's also the right agronomic choice. So we're just trying to say, don't just pick something because, oh, that's got a rebate to it. You want to do the right thing agronomically, but in many cases you can do the right agronomic thing and it's a good economic choice as well.
Many times as we're making crop input choices, we're worried about the nickels and dimes. Hey, is this a nickel cheaper an acre than this? And we get all excited about that. Don't leave dollars on the table. There are programs, just like Brian talked about here with Roundup Ready Plus, that has many dollars per acre available for you on your farm. Make sure that you understand what those programs are and then make the right choices on your farm. So let's, for example, say, hey, I know I have to kill volunteer corn in my soybeans this year, and I'm going to do all these other things that are in Roundup Ready Plus. Hey, look at Roundup Ready Plus for your area and see what are my volunteer corn options. If there's good options there and you can save some money, wow, it's money in your back pocket that you should be getting. Also, make sure that you're getting the dollars. Talk to your retailer up front about this, that, hey, how does this work? Do I need to fill out any paperwork? Do you take care of everything? Just make sure that you're very clear with all the programs ahead of time to make sure you get all the dollars that are coming to you.
So that's the reason why we're bringing this up. Honestly, we don't care if you buy Monsanto stuff or Syngenta or Bayer or BASF. We don't care. We're just trying to make you at least aware that, hey, there are a lot of programs out there. Last week we talked about finance offers that many of these companies have. This week we're talking about some of these herbicide rebates. And I just look at, all right, do I have the opportunity to take advantage of some of these programs? Yeah, I sure do. If you're a soybean farmer, for example, the odds are pretty high that you're going to put a pre-emerge herbicide down. The odds are also pretty high that your crop is going to contain the Roundup traits, so you're going to spray Roundup. So if you're using name brand Roundup rather than a generic, you can get $3 or even $4 an acre rebate on some different products, whether that's one of the Authority products or Fierce, something like that. You can also get some post-emerge help if you're using Select Max for volunteer corn. So there are a lot of different options there.
Well, the other thing too, if you're using the Roundup Ready to Extend trait, you can get even some more money than you could get with the Roundup Ready to Yield soybeans. So if you're thinking about going Extend for this year, hey, that's great. And you know what? If it costs just a little bit more than the Roundup 2s in some cases, well, there's some additional dollars here in Roundup Ready Plus to kind of bring that cost back in order. So it may be something that before you make that seed decision, you take a look at what the programs are and say, wow, well, maybe I was thinking Extend could cost me a little bit more. Here, I could save enough money that Extend may be the same cost or even a little bit cheaper than Roundup 2s, depending on where you're at and which products you're going to use.
In addition to that, if you take a look at, hey, I'm thinking, you know, I need a pre, but I want some residual early post. Yup, Warrant is in this program. How about if I'm planting DeKalb seed and I want to use Harness Down followed by Roundup? Yup, you've got that as well. That may be a little bit different name now than Roundup Ready Plus. I think that's the DeKalb Acre Plus program. My point is, there are just so many different rebate programs. You need to talk to your seed provider and your crop protection provider so you take advantage of these things. And one of the big things too to stress here is programs can vary depending on the region of the country. So Monsanto, for example, I believe they have 5 different regions with this Roundup Ready Plus program. And you know, it kind of makes sense because, for example, we don't plant any cotton in South Dakota. And by the same token, you know, some other areas of the country might not be planting soybeans. So I understand they have different programs, but just make sure that when you're looking up the information, you look up the program from your particular region.
And all that's great, Brian, but we still need to know which products will stop our Weed of the Week. We'll talk about that coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is sponsored by the Enlist Weed Control System from Dow AgroSciences, a new herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate.
Farming isn't just in the land, it's in you. Take control of weeds like never before. Enlist builds on the Roundup Ready system, combining proven control of a new 2,4-D and glyphosate in Enlist Duo herbicide. Protect what matters without changing the way you farm. Talk to your seed or crop protection supplier today.
Our weed of the week is Jimson weed.
Well, Jimson weed is an annual weed and it reproduces by seed. And if you hear that, you think, oh, okay, well, that's not a very big deal. But guess what? You don't want to even have one of these plants around you or your family or your livestock because Jimson weed is highly poisonous. It contains hyoscyamine, and you don't want anything to do with that. So you want to try and get this weed under control. Now here's the thing too, is that sometimes Jimson weed is sold as an ornamental. Can you imagine planting Jimson weed on purpose, planting a poisonous weed around your landscaping? Seems crazy to me, but if you hear something called thorn apple or moonflower, they've got all these different names for Jimson weed. Just make sure if you've got this weed around you, you just kill the thing and keep it away from you and your family.
All right, so let's talk about how to control this weed. Let's start in wheat. It's pretty easy really in wheat, but the thing is you need a pre-emerge herbicide, and a lot of farmers don't use pre-emerge herbicides in wheat. There is a great one for broadleaves like Jimson weed called Sharpen. Sharpen can be used in corn, soybeans, and wheat. We love it in wheat though because you can use a couple of ounces. It's going to cost about 10 bucks an acre if you get up to that couple ounce rate, but you'll have good burn down and good residual control. Then post-emerge, we'd suggest going with wide match and throw in addition tank mix or addition broad spec.
Well, you could use some of that Sharpen in soybeans as well in a product called Verdict. However, you can only use a low rate. Now, it's good enough to burn down some Jimson weed, but you can get a longer residual out of Authority or any of the Authority mixes. So that's what I would recommend. Something like Authority MTZ would be a good mix pre-emerge for Jimson weed control. Now, post-emerge, if you have Roundup Ready or Liberty Link crops, you've got the great options of Roundup or Liberty. Now, if you're using conventional herbicides, Basagran has been one that's worked well if you get hot and humid weather. If it's cool, well, it's not going to work nearly as well. So that will depend a little bit. The weather will determine what you're going to do post-emerge. If you can't use that, you could use something like Pursuit or Raptor and tank mix in some Flex Star or Cobra for extra burn.
All right, and let's not forget about the new Extend trait, the Roundup Ready 2 Extend trait, so you could use dicamba over the top when that gets labeled. That'll be an excellent way to go for your Jimson weed as well. All right, let's turn to corn. Pre-emerge, you got a lot of different choices. Even things like Surpass or Harness, just those straight goods, they'll suppress Jimson weed a little bit. Really, we'd prefer to see something like Balance Flex or Verdict out there.
Or even the new Resicore, Brian.
Yep, absolutely. Resicore would be fine too. Post-emerge, lots of products are labeled, even something like Buctril, the HPPDs, Callisto, Loudus, Impact, Armazon, and then Status really is our favorite product for Jimson weed post in corn.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's Weed of the Week, but Iron Talk is coming up next.
I guess I've always been one to think that you can't just do what everybody else is doing if you want to try to grow the best corn. Stein has proven to me that the corn yields. I've figured out that my other companies couldn't keep up with them. You've got to take a chance to try something and see if it works for you. And this has worked for me. I choose Stein because Stein has yield.
Sometimes getting the yield you want means you need a whole new game plan. Think about it. When the older conventional fertilizer you've been using goes head-to-head with tough soil conditions, they can get all tied up before they ever have a chance to score. That's when it's time to regroup. Time to send in the A-Team. AgroLiquid isn't like other fertilizers. Their nutrient-balanced products stay in the soil in the right formulations in just the right amounts. And because of AgroLiquid's unique chelation technology, you wind up using less and seeing more in your yields. So you could wind up having one heck of a championship season. Make a smart start with AgroLiquid. To find the closest nutrient coach near you, visit agroliquid.com.
Looking for a solution that will grow your returns on every acre? Farmer's Edge offers the most complete package, including hardware, software, variable rate technology services, soil sampling, and unbeatable support, all for only $3.95 an acre. Grow more precisely with Farmer's Edge. To get a special offer from Farmer's Edge, visit growyourreturns.com. That's growyourreturns.com. Grow your returns for only $3.95 an acre with Farmer's Edge. Can you afford not to?
Are you looking for an easy way to apply dry powdered products to your stored grain? Do you want to use the applicator recommended by industry leaders for products like Diacon-D and other dry powder products? Changing Time CT applicators successfully apply a diversity of products quickly, easily, and accurately. The innovative CT applicators are designed to give you the most accurate application of products such as talc, inoculants, fertilizers, and other dry products. For commercial use or on the farm, you need the applicator industry leaders are using. CT applicators for the changing times.
We had super dry conditions there at the end of the fall, probably some driest corn we've harvested. Head shell was almost nil, very minimal. We were down to a kernel or less per square foot with this head, and normally we thought we were doing good keeping down to that 3 kernels per square feet with our previous head. Whether the corn's worth $3, $6, or $8 a bushel, definitely puts more money in our pocket at the end of the day.
When you think about it, productivity starts at planting. So it's time to rethink how productive your planter can be. We did with the new Case IH 2000 Series Early Riser Planter. We rethought your row unit so it's tougher, more accurate. We rethought your meter, took the most precise technology, factory installed it. We rethought every inch of the Case IH Early Riser Planter to make it the most productive planter around. And if you think about it, that's exactly what you want.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
The AFS Connect Farm Management System from Case IH connects you, and only you, to the information you need most from your equipment, from anywhere, at any time. AFS Connect, only from Case IH.
Right now is a critical time to check the health of your engine coolant. I'll give you the steps to take and a few things to think about in today's Iron Talk. The first thing you need to do is visually inspect the coolant color and coolant level in the overflow tank. If everything's fine, you may just need to top off the coolant as needed. Check the freeze point with the refractometer and adjust as needed. Also, pH strips are a handy way to test your coolant condition at any point during the year. Testing for corrosion inhibitors is important too, to extend the life of your equipment. Yeah, it's a little bit of work to fully check out your coolant, but let's be honest here. If you've gone this far, you probably need to change the coolant out. So here is the best way to do that. First, drain the coolant and inspect all hoses and fittings. Then, flush with clean, preferably distilled water. Run your engine for about 15 minutes so the clean water can flush through the system. Then drain it again and properly dispose. Now you're ready to refill the cooling system with coolant. Run the engine once more to circulate the new coolant. 15 minutes should get the job done. Then once the engine cools down, you can use a refractometer to check and adjust the coolant system freeze point. There's a reason why some pieces of equipment and some operators have very few breakdowns or lost time. Do some simple maintenance and upkeep right now before the weather gets too cold. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
On your farm, you need speed and year-round effectiveness in your tillage program. The Quick Till from Norwood Sales allows you to move quickly through your fields, maximizing time and improving yield. Constructed of heavy-duty materials, the Quick Till is ideal for both spring and fall applications, from preparing a healthy seedbed early in the season to breaking up corn residue after harvest. For more information about how a Quick Till can improve fields on your farm, call Norwood Sales today.
That's all the time we have for today's show, but before we go, we want to invite you to tune in to the Ag PhD radio show. It's on Sirius XM channel 147 at 2 p.m. Central each weekday, and we take your live phone calls each day.
And don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We've got another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
A healthy soil helps to keep our air and water clean while providing a medium for productive crops, pastures, and shelter belts. To learn more about how farmers are improving the health of their soils, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.